Good evening, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to High Top Sports Oregon. The Ducks, I guess you guys just don't care about recruiting anymore. It's been 24 hours since you landed somebody, and I texted you. I was like, Derek, everything okay over there? And then Eugene, you guys just quit caring about recruiting. It's been 5 minutes since you landed another 5-star. But no, you guys are projected to land some more big studs. We're going to talk about it today. And then the bomb was dropped and a little article about the NIL stuff that we've been alluding to. But when you get that confirmation that old Uncle Phil's bringing the hammer, you got to feel really good if you're a Duck right now. Derek the Duck Selmer, our Duck Insider, joining us today. Derek, how you feeling after your big 4th of July weekend, big fella?
Yeah, man, it's been a good time. Obviously, coming off a big week last week, landed multiple big recruits, so it's all good on that end. Obviously, we had the 4th of July here this past weekend. Can't really complain about that. Had a nice long weekend. Yeah, and getting back into it, obviously, like we alluded to, Dan, he's on the brink of landing a couple more big recruits, and obviously, the other story you're alluding to, and mostly due to thanks to Phil Knight's pocketbook. So whatever you got to do in today's age, when everybody comes to me and complains and they say, oh, Derek, yeah, you're just a product of the NIL. I just say, get your money up, quit being broke. It's the name of the game.
You
It is what it
peasant.
is.
Get out of my
Right.
face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You get it, man. If you're broke, don't talk to me.
Yeah.
That's just where we're at.
Like, why are you even looking at me, you loser? No, I appreciate it. Look, you're spot on. Let's talk about the two guys that you're favored right now. It's a dog fight or a duck fight, however you want to view this. DJ Pickett, an interesting one here we're going to talk about first, and then Jonah Williams, the other one. Number one cornerback, number one safety. Where are they going to go? Looks like Oregon. Where else would it be? You know what I mean? Just give me all of them. Give me anything you want. We'll talk about what it does for the class if you are to land both of them. DJ Pickett's an interesting one. It's coming down to the Oregon Ducks, which landing effect, I would say right now, out of the schools that are remaining, have had the longest communication that we know of. Second being Miami, which that seems to be the two-dog fight or two-duck fight. And that's going to be a fun one with Cristobal because there's been this weird, I would say, talk smackery going on with Miami fans. Just try to pick fights with anybody because they know during the season we forget they exist. So this should be fun. I mean, at this point, Lanning has stuffed anybody and everybody in the locker. Will he close it down with an ultimate slam on DJ Pickett? They just landed Hilton Stubbs. Would be a nasty combo at the cornerback role. I think Hilton Stubbs is safety, but you get the point. If they were to land Pickett, and the third being LSU. LSU came in late. The reason why they came in late is because Corey Raymond, cornerback coach, was recently hired after being fired from Florida. Florida was the lock for DJ Pickett his entire year last year. And then they fired Corey Raymond, and all goes down the window, and LSU makes a late run here. And they've done very well with recruiting, except with the number one wide receiver, because you also got that. So, look, the three that are at hand, I think, are a heavy favorite. LSU, in my opinion, is simply relationship, probably the strongest relationship of the two. The other two, in my opinion, are money grabs and relationship. And that's why I like Oregon here, as do a few top people. Derek?
Yeah. I mean, we got a couple of interesting dynamics here. I mean, obviously the DJ Pickett one. First off, it's really hard for a West Coast program. Doesn't matter if we're talking Oregon, doesn't matter if we're talking USC, doesn't matter who have you. When you got a 5-star guy out of the state of Florida, obviously it's really hard to go in there and pluck those guys out and bring them to the West Coast when you're battling the schools like the Miamis, the Floridas, the Florida States, the LSUs. What have you. So, part of DJ Pickett's thing is I think it's going to come down to the proximity aspect of it. His camp has kind of come out and said proximity is not something he worries about. But in reality, when you're looking at the other 4 schools all in this little corner of the United States, and then we're talking about getting to Eugene, Oregon, it's not a small trip. So his commitment, I think it is going to come down to that. It sounds like you said, Oregon's been a long-standing contender for his recruitment, and has been for a number of years now. And then Jonah Williams, that's the other one where he was basically slated to commit to Texas A&M. Obviously, he's going to be a two-sport athlete, go play baseball as well. Texas A&M, obviously, they bounced Oregon out of the Super Regionals. Obviously, we're the national runners-up this year. But then, obviously, there's a ton of turmoil happening. Yeah, and there's a ton of turmoil happening with the coaching staff, the roster turnover that's happening right now at Texas A&M. And it just so happens 3 days after, that kind of information comes out, Jonah Williams recruitment's now wide open. We saw our first crystal ball for Oregon the same week that Texas A&M started falling apart in their baseball program. So we got a couple of interesting dynamics with these two guys. Jonah Williams obviously being a little more interesting just to see how A&M, they handle their whole baseball situation and their recruitment of him going forward. And then DJ Pickett, that's just going to be a matter of, are we able to pluck him out of the Southeast? And right now it's looking good, but you know how that goes.
Look, I think, we talked about it last couple of shows because the guys that you were landing, we kind of complimented Dan on the fact that Oregon usually when their guy commits, they say pretty locked in. It's rare they lose a guy just given the history, but they also close guys very late. This is the first time that Oregon is, not the first time, but they're in an unknown territory with how high they are, how early on in the season. With as many 5-stars as you got to anticipate some attrition. This isn't me being negative, it's just being realistic. This would be, if you were to land both these guys, I put you, 5 or 6 5-stars? You'd be crazy to think. And number one players in every position just about. I mean, they are the most touted after recruits. They are going to be recruited heavily until the end. Fortunately, you've got the biggest backer of all in Uncle Phil to back things up. And I think what's going to be even scarier is once the product on the football field for Oregon, what we think it's going to be, will solidify a lot of these guys. So I don't know. It's going to be a dogfight / duck fight until the end for all these guys, regardless of what happens over the next few weeks, because DJ is set to commit in about 10 days, I believe. I don't have a timeline on Jonah. Do you?
No, Jonah hasn't announced the commitment date. DJ's on the 16th. What's that? A week and a half, 10 days? Yeah, like you said, 9 days, something like that.
May have to do a live watch party for that one on a Tuesday. Might have to set that one up and bring her home. If you are not subscribed, by the way, we are on the way to 1,000. Here, real quick though, huge shout out to Duck Nation. We wanted to get to 700 by Sunday. We hit it by Thursday. Absolutely incredible. And I was like, maybe we hit 800 by Sunday. Here we are. It's 733, which is still incredible. Let's shoot for 800 by next Sunday. I feel like that's reasonable to go after. It's 87. We need to get to 1,000 subs, boys, by the season. That's just, I mean, have your grandma subscribe. Like, just get us there. Put us over the hump. We don't have Phil Knight back in the crew, So let's show some love.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Duck Nation, they've been incredibly supportive of us so far. We've talked about it multiple times how we're a pretty young channel yet, and we have people coming out of the woodworks left and right, constantly subscribing. So definitely appreciate everybody who has so far. But like we said, make sure you jump on the train. 1,000, that's where the fun really starts for us. So got some good stuff coming your way this fall.
Absolutely. Let's talk about Uncle Phil. Let's just dive right into it, Big Phil. We mentioned it, and I kind of alluded to, like, look, I mean, everyone always thinks Dan's going to leave. And I've been talking about, I don't see the reason for him to ever leave. He's got everything you can want in Oregon, especially now being in the Big Ten. And an article was released that stated that Phil Knight will literally spend it's an unknown number. It is just whatever you need, Dan. I'm throwing anything and everything. And I said what's scary about Oregon is because they've always had the money. The money's gone into the 75 jerseys that you have in your closet, to the stadium, to the gym, to everything but, what it could go to, because you got to play by the rules. Now, I'm sure there was probably some bag money going around, what have you, but you really can't move the needle like you want to behind the closed doors like they wanted to. Now it's all out in the open. And there's nobody that's got a bigger bag, in my opinion, than Phil Knight. He's 86. This is what the article kind of alluded to. He's coming to an end. This is his retirement. I want to see my Ducks get a national championship. I can't die with it. I don't need any more. I have an endless amount of money. There's not a dollar amount that you can throw at me that's not going to surprise me. And that's just scared the living shit out of the rest of college football. Like, that's crazy. Like, and we've got other schools like Memphis. They've got FedEx back in it. You've got the Bama money. You've got money that's supporting these programs. I understand you. And other programs, but Phil, what Dan's doing in Oregon and what it looks like could be happening isn't. It's as scary for the rest of us. I got to be honest with you. Now, this class obviously isn't going to make an impact this year, so Phil's in the for the long game in the sense like, hey, I'm cool with the next 3 to 4 years, which we did talk about. Where's Dan in the next 5 years? You said hopefully a national championship. I kind of alluded to a dynasty. We got a little roast in the chat saying that's not a dynasty. I said that's a duck dynasty. Hey, what? There might be a T-shirt in the making, boys. But let me pass it over to you. That's off the dome right there. I'm just spitting over here, freestyling. But go ahead. What are your thoughts on Uncle Phil bringing it in?
Yeah, everybody, that's the one thing you always hear. Oregon recruits somebody. They land somebody. The first thing you see, you're going to see 10, 15 comments that say, "Oh, Uncle Phil dropped a bag." Another school picks up a recruit. Someone goes to Florida. It's the name of the game. Oh, they love the school. They're buying into the program X, Y, and Z. Well, now, yeah, what you're doing is you're have legalized Phil Knight to step in and say, "Hey, let me give you a little bit of assistance on the recruiting trail." So now what you're doing is you're giving a guy like Dan Lanning, who I fully and 100% believe would be a successful recruiter, even if it weren't for the NIL factor. Now you give him a substantial chunk of change to back these kids, and you're preaching a vision that these kids buy into is definitely a scary sight. So, we're talking about how Oregon lands these, say everything goes perfectly and they land these 5-star kids, these 6 5 stars. Odds are you're going to lose some of them, right? The recruitment's not going to stop. That's just the name of the game in college football. But what you are doing is you're giving yourself a chance to finish up signing everybody with this new NIL incentive. What Phil Knight has in his back pocket. Obviously, everybody and their mom knows what Nike is. I don't think there's a viewer watching right now who doesn't have something Nike either on their feed or in their closet right now. So it's a major brand. All these kids coming up know that they want to be a Nike athlete. Um, Phil has put Oregon in a very dangerous position in a positive way. And like you said, I think the rest of college football should be on notice. But the other thing I always think is kind of funny too is I constantly hear, "Oh, well, when Phil passes, this is done. Oregon's going to go back to the basement." What they fail to realize is that, Oregon has their nice little trust set up with Phil. So once Phil ceases, that's not stopping anytime soon. So Oregon is
Oh
in a
my god.
fantastic spot. Yeah. Yeah. So Oregon put themselves in a good spot for the foreseeable future, hopefully for the rest of my lifetime. When Phil expires, the Nike money, the jokes aren't going away because the money's not going away. So we're in a pretty incredible, unique spot right now.
Look, I think as a Florida fans always say, look, Lo, he left for the money. He doesn't want to be a Gator. Yeah, I get it. And I kind of chop back of like, look, it was the old take, like they're chasing the bag. Florida's got to figure out to kind of stack up a little bit and start paying these kids like the Oregons of the world. That's just the world that we live in. It is what it is. Either you're going to be pissed about it and you're going to be left behind, or you just kind of just bite the bullet and figure it out. This goes back to Lance, kind of off the dome here. We talk about Tour de France in another video. Everybody was
Mhm.
cheating. Lance was losing, and just the year prior he was the best in the world. Next year everyone's cheating. He's not cheating. He's like, I'm either gotta get on this bus or get off it. So guess what does he start doing? He starts cheating, and then obviously the rest is history. He wins 7 Tour de France's, and I'm not gonna get into what have you, but that's how it happened. So this isn't cheating though. This is legal. This is the rules. They're just better at playing by the rules now that are finally fitting their way. And look, it's crazy to really truly comprehend how dangerous this really can be, because they're going to essentially set the market. And let's just say they have 500 million to spend or 100 million to spend in recruiting. I can maybe give you 5 schools that would go toe to toe with that, but that would be putting them on the brink. Phil's like, I just woke up this morning. What else do you need? That's his breakfast, and like that is a dangerous place to be in. And like if if the markets everyone's giving you 5 million and they're like, hey, I'll give you 10, what person wouldn't go? Like that to me is the difference. Bama, Georgia, Texas may offer him 5 million. Let's call him being DJ Pickett. Oregon's like, I'll give you 10. And they have
Sure.
and they're not gonna, and sure, they're overpaying, but they have it. Why what do they care?
Yeah,
Money's not a
100%.
problem.
And No, and I know there's gonna be somebody in the comments who are like $10 million. They're not gonna pay $10 million for
Throwing
and that's
numbers,
fair.
boys.
We are you know yeah we are 100% just spitting out example numbers for shits and gigs here. But
Hold on.
like you
The,
said,
the number for Hilton Stubbs was 3 million at Miami. So I'm not, and
eh,
Pickett's the number one player in his position group. I don't think I'm far off with the 5 milli. So that's my thing. Is like if the number is 5, why wouldn't Oregon just go? I'll give you 8. I'll give you an extra three
sure.
million or 4 million. That's a lot.
Well, even at that point, yeah, we're talking 20%. You go these guys say Georgia LSU, you have an offer of 5 mil on the table and some lucrative, commercial deal going on. Oregon says, I'll give you 6 and you're a Nike athlete. Now, who's not going to look at that and say, maybe just maybe for the extra milli, I go up. Sure, you go to the Pacific Northwest, it's not Miami, it's not New Orleans, it's not, coastal Florida, what have you, but you do have the umpteen different uniforms that are all brand new as of this year. You do have the athletic facility that was just built in the last 5 years, brand spanking new. You do have the best facilities voted, year in and year out in college football. You do have the backing of Phil Knight. You do have, the coach that everyone seemingly wants to play for in Dan Lanning. So it's like I don't think certain people want to accept it, but there truly is a storm brewing. And, I think that's a phrase that gets said way too often, especially on social media. You'll see, oh, there's a storm brewing in insert some mediocre college city here. In Eugene, I think that truly is the case, just with the whole NIL thing, the way recruiting's heading, the college football playoffs expanding. You headed to one of the two elite conferences. Now you're going to be not necessarily heading that conference, but you are going to be at the head of that conference with the Ohio States, the Michigans, the Penn States of the world. Oregon's in a pretty unique spot, and I think recruiting right now it's really really exciting, but I think this only takes off as the years go on.
Yeah, it's look, I think a thought too that I was thinking as you were talking is like thinking about Mariota, right? If he's there during this time, you don't think Uncle Phil throws him a shoe, does a little shoe deal?
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like that has to be a lucrative thing. These kids all like that's a big deal to get your own shoe, and then now you're making obviously deals off that. I mean, you don't have to even so much. It's just the idea of having your own shoe in college. Like that's where this is going. That's the next step. And again, Nike is the expert. They're the founders, the leaders in this world. It's crazy. Like you said, the Storm of Brew is perfect. It seems like it's cliche, but this is literally what's happening. And I feel like we're kind of early to the scene in the sense, talking about it in a way, just because Oregon's always kind of been the little engine that could. I think the little engine might be rolling some people over here. a couple,
Yeah,
couple weeks.
the engine's starting to roll a little bit,
Week
I know
five,
it's
I
all
think
fun and
everyone's
ga
going to be this conversation. It's going to be mainstream. Like we're ahead of its time. It's going to be mainstream. Jot the Pates. Everyone's going to be having this exact conversation come week 5, without a shadow of a doubt.
Oh, yeah.
Sh- Should be
Well,
should
you
be good
think
stuff.
about it this way, Oregon's heading into the Ohio State game. You're going into the national undefeated. You have a top 5 recruiting class, outside of the field right now. Like, the program's absolutely humming. I think, like you said, about that week 5 time, we're gonna see peak Oregon. And if Oregon finds a way to beat Ohio State on that October 12th night, good luck, man. The trains are really gonna be rolling, and I don't know who's stopping it in terms at least in terms of, what everybody's saying about them.
For sure. Absolutely. Well, Derek the Duck, you're frozen for a little bit. I don't know what's going on with your internet over there, but pleasure as always. Great chit chat with you. Boys and girls, be sure to smash the like button, subscribe. Let's get to that 1,000 mark before the season. Gots to. It's going to be fun. I expect the summer to still be fireworks like it just was just a few days ago. Till next time, I'm Shelton. That's Derek the Duck. See you, boys.